Hi, Tom. My question is, could a neurological disorder impact the quality of one's consciousness? I want to believe the answer is no, but I've heard stories about people who used to be kind, compassionate, and appear to have very low entropy. And then after they got a brain tumor or a stroke, their personality changed. They became irritable, angry very easily. Their entropy seemed to have gone up because of the disorder. I want to believe that illness provides opportunities to accelerate our growth. But when it comes to neurological disorders, I sometimes find I have trouble to see how that could be an opportunity because it seems to impact the platform we use to grow. So I'd like to hear your take on that.
Okay, you're making an assumption that is the problem, and that is that, okay, we have a person and he's happy and he's cheerful and he's a low entropy person. He's a nice guy. So he gets a brain injury and now he's grumpy and surly and that sort of thing. So you think, well, it seems like he just went from low entropy to high entropy because of the brain injury. Not the case. The brain injury did not affect his consciousness. So what you hoped to have the answer, you got. That answer is true. No, it doesn't affect the quality of the consciousness. Because you get a brain injury doesn't make your quality of consciousness go down. But what the brain injury does is it modifies your physiology, right? Your physiology changes, then what your consciousness can do with that physiology changes. So the physiology in the central nervous system is a very complex thing. So if that central nervous system gets scrambled to the point that things don't work anymore, you try to do this and it doesn't work, that can come out as emotional dysfunction. Physical dysfunction comes out as emotional dysfunction because a person is trying to express one thing, but that doesn't express as they wish. So they have this, let's say you have bad brain chemistry. Your brain chemistry doesn't work right. So because of that, you act very self-centered. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean your consciousness is now suddenly high entropy. It just means that the kind of expressions that you do in the physical world, okay, they come out more in terms of you. You think more in terms of you because that's a limitation of the way your central nervous system works. That part of your nervous system that deals with abstractions, other things, other people and their issues, which is more abstract than you are to yourself. You're concrete to yourself. Others are more of an abstraction. That abstraction part now is dysfunctional. So you have a hard time feeling about other people, and it seems to become more about yourself. That doesn't mean your consciousness has gone bad. It just means your physiology's changed to the point you have a hard time expressing that consciousness. That low entropy consciousness has a hard time expressing its low entropiness because the body doesn't respond to that. The body doesn't want to do that. It's like the guy that gets brain damaged and slurs their speech. Well, now it doesn't mean the consciousness can't think clearly enough to speak. It just means that the consciousness says, hey, say hello, and instead comes out because of the brain damage. You see, so that's the problem. That central nervous system has lots of components that do specific things, like the abstract part versus the concrete part. That's different functions in the brain. If you disturb one, then the ability of that person to do that part that's disturbed kind of disappears. And in its place, you get frustration and annoyance because it's not working. So that's what's going on. So it's not that the brain injury changes consciousness, it changes what the consciousness can do with the avatar. So the avatar now is going to behave more low quality just because that parts of their central nervous system that enables them to project high quality isn't functioning anymore.
So I guess I could see that as some kind of weight training or resistance training for the consciousness.
Yeah, you could probably do that. You know, the central nervous system is pretty flexible. You know, people get strokes and parts of their brains die, but if they keep working at it and working at it and keep putting pressure on their central nervous system to do the function that it can't do, it'll find other ways around it. It'll bypass that dead brain tissue and start, you know, the hearing part of the speech part. Okay, that's dead. But if they keep working at it and working at it, there'll be some other part of the brain that'll take up that speech function. But they have to train that brain to do that. And it's slow and it takes constant effort. It's not an easy or quick thing. But yes, people who have that, if you can sit down with them and say, okay, I know you're acting cranky, but let's work on the way you used to be. You know, let's work on, you know, something cheerful. Think of something cheerful. And they might say, I can't. Well, that cheerful section maybe is damaged. Well, remind them of something cheerful. Well, remember when we did such and such? That was pretty happy. That was cheerful. Remember that? And they just have to keep working. But what most people do is, because it isn't easy, they give up. And when they give up, they don't feel happy anymore. They don't feel whatever. And they start making poor choices. They're just damaged because of the brain injury. And that damage shows in their behavior. But anybody who does therapy for stroke victims will know you have to keep at it. You know, it's not just a week, it's months and months and months. You just have to keep pushing the body to make new pathways and find new ways to express that. And eventually you'll succeed. But most stroke victims do that because they have physical therapists that are bugging them, 3 times a week to do it. But nobody bugs them if it's an emotional or personality disorder. It's just, well, that's the way it is. But yes, you probably could train out of it, retrain the brain, but the person would have to have that understanding and realize that they were missing something. They're different now, and make an effort and an effort and an effort to do it. And I think definitely, yes, they could regain what they lost.
Thank you for giving me the answer I wanted and much, much more.